Hi there, I'm Spira. Welcome back. Today I would like to talk to you about chronic pain, which is a very common occurrence in trauma survivors. So you could have chronic pain from a lot of different sources. You could have chronic pain just from the tension that you've been holding your whole life, basically. You could also have chronic pain can be caused by illness. It could be caused by accidents. You could even have end up with chronic illness from your chronic pain. I mean, everything is tied together. You know, our body heals itself when it is stress-free. So what that means is we can't heal if we are constantly stressed out. We just can't. Now, the sciencey reason is this. Our nervous system is responsible for a lot. It runs the body, right? So our sympathetic nervous system handles the bigger stuff, you know, moving, gross motor skills, breathing, our heart beating, all of that, okay? We need our sympathetic nervous system. However, our sympathetic nervous system is also in charge of defense and protecting us, taking care of us. So the good news is that fight or flight can be helpful when you're in danger. If you are walking and all of a sudden you come across a tiger, which you probably wouldn't unless you live on the continent of Asia, but let's just say you did, and you go into fight or flight, that's good because that means your body can get revved up, full of adrenaline, and get you ready to take off and get out of danger. So it's a good thing. With trauma survivors, however, that fight or flight, that hypervigilance, happens too much, and you can get stuck in it as well. So when you get stuck in it, all of that tension can get trapped in the body. One of the places it can get trapped in is the psoas muscle. And the psoas muscle, so it attaches to the spine and then it moves down and it's kind of big and then it attaches to the inner thighs. So this muscle is responsible when you pick up your leg. If I want to start running, I pick up this leg. So these, you have two, right? They're on either side. They hold a lot of tension. And one of the things that I do for that is TRE, which is trauma release exercises. That's in another video. But the other thing that happens as a result of chronic stress and trauma is other issues in other parts of the body. For myself, I have a lot of chronic pain from the shoulders, even the mid-back, and up into my neck and my jaw, and my neck muscles are incredibly tight. I had the misfortune of being in not one, but 2 car accidents within 2 years of each other. And in both car accidents, I was rear-ended and it caused whiplash and a lot of back pain. And that is serious trauma to the body. It really, truly is. And if I had any idea how serious it was, I would have done a lot more earlier on to take care of myself. But again, trauma survivors don't know how to take care of themselves for the most part. That's why we're doing this now. That's why we're using self-care. So all of this is self-care. Now what happens is you get little knots and trigger points. Okay, so I look like, if you could see my trigger points, I would look like a dog covered in ticks. You know, like I would just have these big little round things all over the place. My trigger points are insane and they're very painful. Now, the TRE helped me a lot with the chronic pain because the TRE is a lot of shaking. You tremor the psoas muscle when you do TRE and it shakes the whole body, so it ends up shaking a lot of the tension out, okay? So continuing to do that or dancing, anything that's always moving the body around is always good for you. That's why exercise is good. I mean, exercise is good for everything. You can never go wrong if you exercise every day. So, but how do we get into those trigger points, you know? You need tools. You don't need expensive tools, but you need some tools. So I would like to show you some of my tools and my toys. I'm going to start with this one though. These little guys are heat patches. I get these at CVS or Walgreens or whatever, and there's one in each package. And what I do is, they last all day, by the way, so it's not too hot. Today I have one on the back on one of my trigger points because I have one out of all of the trigger points, well, more than one, but I do have this one in particular that is really, really, really stubborn and really unhappy. And so I've been working on them a lot in the last few days, and putting the heat on it will hopefully keep it from, you know, tightening up again, because that's what happens. Even after you work them, sometimes they tighten up again, so you have to do it over and over and over, and you have to keep at it. So that's what these are for. And the other thing I wanted to show you too, this is cupping. I have a funny story to tell you about cupping. So when I was a kid, my mom used cupping. My family is of Greek origin. And when we were sick, my mom did cupping on us, and we called it veduzas. And what she would do is take a small cup and light a fork on fire using some cotton and thread and dipping it in rubbing alcohol. And she would actually take the flaming fork. I love this memory. She would take the flaming fork and put the cup over it briefly, and then boom, put it on our back. So she would do a whole bunch of them, right? And for us, that was to break the fever. And it always worked, but it also left a lot of bruises on our backs. And so as a kid, I was thinking, like, I didn't like it. I kind of liked it because I felt better, but I didn't like it because it left all these weird bruises on my back. Anyway, flash forward to most recently, I am hearing about it as a healing modality, and a lot of people are doing it and they're loving it. So at first I thought, oh my God, that's crazy. Why would anybody torture themselves like that? But you know what? Someone that I know swore by it, and I said, all right, I'll look into it more. So apparently here's what happens. When you put it on your skin, it's a suction cup basically. It's a giant suction cup. And when you put it on your skin, you squeeze it, makes a farting noise, and then it starts to stick up. This literally lifts the skin up a little bit, right? And so the way that is helpful is because it will lift the fascia. So the fascia is that sort of that interweb throughout our whole body that holds everything in, but our fascia can get really tight. And so when you have all that chronic pain, sometimes they call it myofascial pain syndrome. What this can do is add some relief by lifting the skin off and by lifting the fascia kind of off of each other, so that if they're stuck and you have adhesions, they can kind of, give them a little bit of space. And also, see what happens is it'll bring blood to the area as well because of the suction. I did a lot of this over the weekend, and I can't say that it helped separately from the other things that I did, because I did a lot of things over the weekend. This was just one of them. But I do have some interesting marks that I can show you. And look, I've got my little warm pad right here. So this is the result. And what's really interesting, though, is that some areas turn a lot redder than others. And when I had done this in Indonesia with a healer there, they said to me that that's the place where you need more healing. And it's interesting, I don't know the science behind that necessarily, but I do know that the spots that I put it on where it got the most purple were the areas that I had the most pain. So I don't know what the connection is with that, but there it is. Okay, so another thing that I want to show you is this bad boy. This is called the Theracane. Go get one. Just do it. I think I paid $20. They're on Amazon. Definitely under $20. This thing is amazing. I'm not going to go into it right now during this video. I will show you in another video, but There are so many different ways to use this, and you can really work on your trigger points. One of the things that I did notice was when I first got it, it wasn't that helpful for me. I wasn't fully understanding how to work my trigger points, but also I think my body was just too tense. It was just too wound up. And it wasn't until I started working on my nervous system regulation and, bringing myself from that hypervigilance to a state of, we call it homeostasis, so to come to balance, basically. It wasn't until I got to that point where this started to actually be more effective. Now, there are a lot of different ways you can use it, a lot of different ways you can hold it, and there are different, nubs. These have little balls on the end, and these are a little bit smaller. One of these you could actually hold, you could put your hand here and hold this against the neck, and you could either hold it here or here, and you would really just be using leverage to get into some of those trigger points, okay? The thing is, especially in the neck area, you have to be very gentle, and it's hard to do when you have a lot of pain. I know, for myself, all I want to do is get in there and dig around, but you can hurt yourself, so you have to kind of be mindful as best you can. One of the things I'll also do is put a little bit of lotion into this. So this is one of my areas that's really hard to work with, and I'll put lotion and I'll actually just slide it into this area. This area here is where the scalenes are. It's between, this is your SCM, okay, and then on the other side of that, there's some nerves and stuff, so you have to kind of get right behind your SCM, and then I just kind of move it up and down, That's for this area. And then when you have other bigger knots, you can just kind of press it. This might be not the best way to do it on the arm, but okay. So it presses down, and you use leverage to make it work, okay? You could also turn the head back and forth while holding it. I think that's a really good idea in a lot of cases. So definitely explore and play around. This is something you can do in front of the TV. There's absolutely no excuse for not having any time to take care of yourself. I will not accept it. You have to take care of yourself. You won't heal if you don't take care of yourself. And you won't be good to anyone else if you don't take care of yourself. So, okay, next tool. This is a Graston tool, okay? These are used by chiropractors mainly. It's not really something that a lot of people are using at home. I am an explorer, and I'm very curious. And I'm also a do-it-yourselfer, so I really wanted to learn how to use this on my own. And I got it, and I did. And it's kind of a miracle. And what this does is you run it over the skin. You have to use some kind of lubrication, though, because you don't want to drag it over the skin. So I just use regular lotion. In all of these videos, they tell you that you need to use this fancy waxy stuff. That's probably $25 for a jar. I just got this out of my room, like regular lotion. Not a big whoop. Now the real ones are expensive because they're made better. This cheap one, though, this was like 15 bucks. For me, I don't care. Totally worth it. So what I can show you is, I'll put some lotion on my arm, and I'll show you right here. This, basically you just kind of scrape over the layers, and if you feel, you'll know when you're in the right spot, because when I rub it here, I don't feel much of anything, but when I rub it here, it's very tender, like it almost hurts. So that's how you know that you definitely need to work that area. So what you would do is you could either do strokes going in the same direction in the entire area. You can also, then you change direction, okay? And you want to get as many directions as you can, because what this is doing, again, we talked about the fascia and how everything is kind of like the muscles and the fascia and everything just kind of glides over each other. But when you have adhesions, they stick, right? And so sometimes you would even feel the adhesions in the scar tissue. And what this does is break it up a little at a time. This is going to be a process. There are different types of tools. They look very differently from each other. This is my first tool. You know, I don't have a ton of money, so I decided I'll just get one and play with it and see how it goes. And this thing has been incredible, especially the back of the neck here and this whole area along the shoulders. It is perfectly reasonable to use this in this whole area, okay? Now, if I were you and you're curious to try it, you can look up videos that were made by chiropractors. And right here on YouTube, you can find a video to give you better instruction. I'm not the person to do that because I'm not a professional. But I want you to know that this exists. And I want you to know that this can be really helpful to you. I also want you to know that you don't have to use this if you don't have money. You can use a butter knife with, obviously, no blades or a serrated edge. But you could use a butter knife or a spoon. Any kind of a thin metal object could be used to come in here and to open up some of the scar tissue. Now, try to remember again, though, everything is in layers, so you want to work a little bit at a time, okay? Please don't get overwhelmed by all the things I'm going to show you today. But the truth is, I use all of them. And some of these things I use every day. But I don't use all of the things every day. The bottom line here is, if you want to heal and you want to feel better, you do have to do something every day, even if it's just a 5-minute meditation. Because a 5-minute meditation is enough if you do it right. If you did 5 minutes of diaphragmatic breathing a day, you would start to feel better because that actually calms the nervous system. Okay, so you might notice that the scene has shifted just slightly, and I had an interesting thing happen after I did all of the filming and I went to edit the video. There was a large chunk of it that the sound cut out. I don't know why. I'm using a wireless thing, and it was actually during a clip where it just was recording and then stopped, so I don't know what happened. So what I'm doing now is I brought a backup. I have a mic and my iPad just in case, because who knows, equipment is not totally reliable and all of that. So, okay, I was talking about the nervous system, and I think where I was going with that was, you know, when a normally healthy person gets revved up, or or emotionally jarred, or something happens like a traumatic event or whatever, we all go into that same response, that fight or flight response. But the difference is that in a normally healthy person who has a baseline of homeostasis would actually be able to come back down from that and heal and move beyond it. A person who is stuck in fight or flight all the time, and they get repeated traumas in some cases, and it's hard for them to come back to baseline. So what I have found and what I have been working on is all the work that I'm doing with my nervous system to keep it regulated. That's been working out really well. I definitely could be doing it more. We all could be doing it more. But it's definitely helping, and I do feel a lot calmer. And also, now I feel like I'm ready to kind of break away the armor, if that's a good word to use, because that's kind of what happens, especially in the upper body or all over. Even like I said about the psoas earlier, we crunch up, when we're tense, everything just crunches right up, and it's a protective measure. So, it's okay to crunch up as a protective measure, but we have to be able to release all of that too. So that's what all this stuff is. Okay, so I talked about the Theracane, and I also want to talk to you about these. Okay, so these are just rubber balls. They're therapy balls, but you can use tennis balls. I have tennis balls as well. It just depends on how much pressure you want. You can use these against the wall or on the mat, and it's pretty easy. I'll give you an example, I'll give you an example, and at some point I will do a separate video on it. So let's say that you have some lower back issues. So this area up here, the upper glutes, is a really good place to start. So I would put the ball down and just kind of roll onto it. And you can press into the mat with the feet and come up a little bit and then just start to roll around, holding yourself up with your arms. Now, this can get really intense in some areas. For me, definitely right about here. But if you're holding yourself up, you definitely have more control over how much of your weight you put on it and how much pressure. That's why some people like to use the wall as well. And this can be used in various parts of the back and then the upper shoulders and even the neck area. Before I show you the passive stuff, another tool that is really, really easy to use and super useful and totally free is your hands. So the hands are best for this area, the neck. All of these muscles, they're strong, but they're delicate, and there are a lot of nerve bundles all throughout the neck area. So it's not a good idea to just grab a tool and pound away at it. I would definitely pick up an anatomy book maybe, or there are a lot of educational videos on YouTube about anatomy. And I'd have to say, yeah, the most that I've seen that were really helpful were from, physicians or even chiropractors, some personal trainers, anybody who works a lot with anatomy. So lots of information there. And for example, I talked earlier a little bit about the scalenes. You can actually find the little trigger points yourself and then really softly massage them just using your finger. That's it. And then in other parts, I learned this cool acupressure trick too. If you hold your arm up, that little divot in there, put your finger on it and then drop the arm and then press down in that area and you'll probably find a tender spot. And mine is actually not there anymore because I already worked on it, but it's still a little there. And then when you find it, you just stop and breathe and relax the arm, and it releases a lot of tension, especially in the shoulder area. So lots of little tricks like that. I'll definitely show you more of that. And again, anywhere you can literally self-massage if you want to. And for the myofascial work, what I would do is actually squeeze the skin and lift it up and away also. That can actually feel really intense, So you'll have to try it. Like here, it doesn't bother me. Here, very intense. So play around with that. Another kind of myofascial release would really just be a simple laying back and relaxing and using gravity. So this is a fancy little thing that I got to lay my back on. I just happened to see it at Marshall's one day, so I grabbed it. It was really cheap. You don't need this. I'll show you how to do it with the blocks and with your bolster or even just rolled up blankets. But this is kind of neat if you do have one or if you find one, because you can really open up the spine and extend the spine, and it elongates the spine. And also it opens up the chest. And when you're letting gravity do the work, it's a really great way to open up the pectoralis muscles especially. So this is super easy. You just lay back on it. Find the spot you like, and you can just stay here and relax. One thing that I like to do is, let's say this is my first position, I'll stay here for couple of minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, and then I'll press my elbows in and move slightly and lay back again. And it's really nice because it gets different parts of the upper back. I tend to be really tight in the thoracic spine, so for me it gives me a lot of relief in the back, but then don't forget also all of this opens up. And make sure you support the head. You can use a blanket or a block. If it doesn't bother you, you can just, be as is. And you can also experiment with the arms and how you want to place them by placing them overhead. Again, loads of fun. One of the things that I like to do lately is because I never really gave myself a lot of time for self-care before, and I never really watched TV or anything. So now I'm actually not making myself, but I'm giving myself time to sit down and be passive, and I either listen to music or I will have a TV show on. I'm learning to watch more comedy stuff because laughing is always really good medicine. And it's a great way for me to just stop and focus on myself, you know. And some days I can do this for 2 hours. I love it. If you don't have the fancy thing, but you do have one of these, you can simply lay back on it. Now I would pull it up to the tailbone and then just lean back and relax. Now, again, check in with your neck. If you don't like how this feels on your neck, if you want more height, you can come up and fold the blanket, lay back down again. If it's too much, remove the blanket. Lots of ways to adjust here. And again, you can also try different ways of holding your arms. This is so nice for the chest. So in this pose, the other thing that you can do is bring the feet together. If it's okay, if it feels safe for you. For some people, this is not a comfortable position. So if that's the case, just leave the legs out in front. But if you want to try this, you're going to take the belt and bring it behind your back and just make a loop. Now, I am notoriously bad at making loops, and every time I did trainings with other teachers, I always had to have people make my loop for me. But I'm learning, I'm getting better. I think I got it this time. So you take the loop and you just put it around the feet and around the lower back. Pull it as snug as you want. Another option is to have blocks under the knees, if you would like. And then just lay here for as long as you like. And just let your body sink into the supports. You could also use an eye mask or a little washcloth. You could just drape it over your eyes if you'd like. And it's that simple. It's a very supportive pose. It's super relaxing. I feel relaxed just doing it for like a minute. There are also ways to use the blocks. I should also add that if you don't have one of these, there are so many things that you can use, like couch pillows. You could just put a couch pillow down. Get creative. So some of the things you can do with blocks, let me take this off. You can lay on the side of it, right about where the armpit is, and you can support your head with the arm. And from here you can gently roll back and forth. This can be intense or just feel kind of nice, depending on how much tightness you have in this area. So these are your serratus anterior. Another thing you can do is lay on it with your head. And with your head supported, very gently and very slowly, you can turn your head from one side to the other. A few minutes of this can feel really nice. The type of block you use definitely makes a difference as well. This is much firmer than this. So if you're a little bit more sensitive, just use a softer block. You can also use different heights. So you can put it on the lower height if you want to. That's up to you. Well, that is it for now. I just wanted to give you a little introduction to myofascial release and some of the different ways that you can start exploring with it. I hope that I can make more videos for you on how to use all of these tools. They're not hard though, so don't be afraid to play around, and the easiest one is self-massage. So maybe just start with that. Find that tender spot, press it gently, kind of breathe through it, and then feel it maybe melt under your finger. But it takes a while, can take 1 or 2 minutes. And also, if you press so hard that it kind of hurts, that it won't work. So you can press, find where it hurts, and then back off just slightly, so it's a gentle pressure. I don't know why, but it works so much better than just smashing into it, because that's the instinct, right? When you have a trigger point, I just want to smash into it, but that's not how to do it. So okay, I wish you well. I wish you fun on this healing journey, because sometimes it's not fun and sometimes it is, so let's enjoy it when it is. And I thank you for sticking through the whole video, and if you found it helpful, please hit the like button. And if you want to see more videos like this, hit the subscribe button, and don't be afraid to comment if you have another trick that you want to add, or even a tool that you find really helpful, because there are definitely a lot out there. So thanks again, and I will talk to you again. Namaste.